morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
And I'm Karista.
All right. So, Care Bears, you and I have been kind of going through uh, working on our own personal mindsets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Mm-hmm.
we have these ebbs and flows throughout our week. Some days you'll just be in like a great mood. You wake up, everything's on the right side of the bed, right? Like you're feeling great. And then one thing can really set the motion for like, I don't feel so great anymore, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
that's all of a sudden where your focus goes. And then the next day you wake up and you're just like, I'm freaking angry. Like, blah, everything. I don't want to do this today. I don't want to do any of
Yeah.
this stuff today, you know? Like,
We're
and
just
then,
exhausted.
right. And then like this
Yeah.
this morning, for instance, woke up and I just felt like I have not had any sleep in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like not thinking straight. I'm not feeling like really up for doing anything. I kind of just want to like retreat into my own little shell, my little tortoise shell
Mm-hmm.
is what I like to call it. And
My eyes been twitching.
right, freaking eyes twitching, and not do anything and just sit in front of a television or listening to an audible or anything that doesn't require me to have to think and just
Or take action.
or
Yeah.
take action and just be right.
Mm-hmm.
um and sometimes the thought comes across of, where's this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm fully aware. I'll ask myself these questions and it'll be something, an example. Why do I feel like this today?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to go with trusting my intuition, trusting that the answers that I have are really within. And so I'll just listen to the first thought that comes through, right? So, for instance, if I ask myself right now, why do I feel like this today?
Mm-hmm.
The first thought that comes to my head is, you're not hydrating enough. You're not being active enough to keep your energy levels high.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and your mental state is in exhaustion because you're on a go all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And then I'll dig a little deeper and I'll just sit with this thought process. And sometimes I'll even get a bit more information, like this morning. Um, and yesterday, I also got this information yesterday, which most people out there in this community call them like downloads. And it was kind of this entire visualization of how we are connected to everything and everyone, and how when you speak, the words that you speak, which we've talked about this, the science
Mm-hmm.
versus spirituality episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm. And
where
affirmations. Yeah.
mm-hmm, that the things that you say, the thoughts, the words, all of it has energy to it. All of it is actually impactful. Which also means that, say, like you're in a dispute with somebody and you're just going on a rampage, you're talking shit about them, whatever, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
actually creating this energetic connection between you and that other individual. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you'll even receive that energy back. So it's just going back and forth. And whether or not you can see it, that's one thing. And I understand that. And that can be very confusing for some to hear something like this because they've never visibly seen this like connection.
Mm-hmm.
Because trust me, if you guys could see like the energy and like how it's all connected, you probably wouldn't be here because your mind would be so freaking blown. You would just snap back out to where you
Yeah.
came from. But like, but yeah, so I mean, you've got this energetic connection that is happening, and there is an exchange of that going on. So now amplify that. Amplify that for how many times do you think about somebody else a day?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you speak that person's name a day, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
your interactions with somebody, when you actually get in front of somebody, and how you are now actually within each other's energetic field and exchanging.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave all of that behind. You get into a quiet place to just sit and be still but none of that has been released,
Those
or
connections are still maintained.
those
Mm-hmm.
connections are still maintained. So now not only are you just dealing with your own stuff, your own energy, especially if it's in a low state, but you're also still working through everyone else's
Mm-hmm.
that you've
Yeah,
been
what you're
interacting
receiving
with.
from them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So this is what we say when we talk about cord cutting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Can you
I
talk a little bit more about that? Because I think this is the first time we've mentioned cord cutting on Love Always Self.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So cord cutting is a practice that you can do. Um, and it's a visualization practice. And it's also, remember, we practice that what you think really does occur, right? Your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
everything, you're creating from that, whether you visibly see it or not. So, following along with that mindset, um, you can use a visualization to maybe cut that energetic tie between you and somebody else or whatever you feel like you're attached to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No,
Um,
it's not. Explain what it's not.
it's not removing this completely out of your life. It's
Like
not
removing the person, yeah, or that
right.
connection necessarily.
Right. It's not removing the connection completely out of your life. It's not, wishing them any kind of ill will or anything of that nature, right? It has nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with that. It is simply cleansing your own energetic field so you can kind of reset
Mm-hmm.
um, and produce the energy that you desire to have without anything else interfering with it.
It can be helpful, especially in situations where you tend to find that you're passing that negative energy back and forth.
Right. I would imagine that a lot of people that are in like even for yourself, like a healthcare practice or like a therapist or, somebody
Mm-hmm.
that is really listening.
In the helping field, yeah.
Right. Right. And working with those that are having issues or problems of any kind, like that are producing a lot of emotional states behind what they're discussing with you. Um, so even like when somebody does come to you, um, and like if I come to you, Carrie, and I need a vent, right? And I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
all riled up or I'm crying or whatever. It's actually good for you after that conversation to do a cord cutting
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
practice. So going back to that. So what I like to do when I do this is I do a mental image or picture in my head where I pretend that the energetic connection between me and the other person that I'm trying to do this cord cutting from is a beautifully tiny, thin silver string of light between me and that other individual. And it's just kind of floating. It's connected to me, it's connected to them, it's floating in the ether, right? And then I have this amazing pair of scissors, this large pair of scissors, and it's made of like gold and white light, and it's just positive, and everything about it just shines bright, and it's just incredibly gorgeous. So just visualize in your head that you have this amazing pair of scissors that looks like that. And then every one of those energetic cords, you're just kind of snipping them away, right? You're just cutting around your entire energy field and around your body, and you're just kind of cutting those cords loose. And every time you do that, you're sending that energy back to them, but with love and peace. So there's no like ill intentions towards that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just remember, and I'm going to say this because I'm receiving the information right now to say this. So, if you're using this practice to actually create some form of ill intentions, guarantee that cord's still connected.
Mm-hmm. And that's coming right back at you as
And,
well.
right.
It's
And
going both ways.
that's
Yeah.
going both ways, right? So, um I wanted to just make sure that like we talked about this because when I do this practice, I usually feel this sense of relief afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's going to take more than once to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I've even had thoughts where I've done this and then something immediately happens with like a very specific individual, and then all of a sudden I'm back into this like emotional state and I'm like, damn it, and so 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 I'll do it again, and like you can use other modalities as well if like you feel like you need that physical presence of something to do this with. You can use other modalities like sage or Palo Santo, and you're using that smudging practice with the smoke around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also imagine that smoke that you're smudging yourself with is also releasing those cords.
I even just saw like drawing little stick figures with the string in between and just tearing that paper
Oh my gosh, yeah.
down
And
the
for,
middle.
and for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, I'm gonna I'm gonna actually do this because I'm not the artist in this in my family. My husband's that. So we're just gonna draw little stick figures, right? Just oh my gosh, I can't wait for y'all to see this. This is incredibly bad.
Please sign it so it'll be worth something someday.
Here, I'm gonna make us all little angels. All right. So let's say this is so
We've
you
got
could
a very artistic rendition
you
of
know I'm just
Shira and another person with a cord in between.
so and you can even assign it like if you think that you really need to do this with a very specific individual, you can even sign
Mm-hmm.
it. So you can say like I'll put my name at the top, and then Carrie, I'm going to put your name on the other side, right, just for
Okay.
this particular situation. So you can even like do that. You can like write your name at the top. you know
I love that you signed it.
I
Yeah.
did sign it. I signed it just for you, just in case this becomes famous one day. I'm just saying, why not? It's a famous piece of artwork. It'll go on a
Yeah.
ceiling somewhere in a big grand hall. Anyway, and then you can just maybe draw an X on it. Just something super
Yeah.
simple, to release that. Or you can scribble it out if you want to
Mm-hmm.
and get rid of it, you know? Like
Or if it's
these
a pencil, you can even erase it.
or if it's a pencil, you can erase it. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. Because I know sometimes it's hard to get into that visual state, especially when you're in stress, especially when you're having high anxiety and things of that nature, right? Or you're feeling sad or depressed or whatnot. It's hard to get into that like visual state
Mm-hmm.
occasionally, right? So, and some people are super visual and they can just completely like take what I'm saying right now and just like imagine the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I highly recommend that because that's really going to help you release that. There is a part 2 to this, I feel like.
Okay.
So there was I was having a conversation with someone I care about, and we were talking about this exact thing about energetic cords and attachments and things like that. We had watched this video on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it and link it below, but it was somebody that had went through an NDE, a near-death experience. And when she went through that near-death experience, she had a conversation with God, and he was talking to her about the words, the thoughts, and the energy that it carries, and the words that you speak, and the energy that it carries, and the actions
Mm-hmm.
that you take, and the energy that it carries, and how it's amplified from one to the next, right? And how when you do speak illy of somebody else, you are actually creating an energetic connection to them, and that's being transferred. And so this download that I felt like I got when I was having this conversation with this other individual was this amount of information that was just coming through was like telling me that not only when you say something to yourself like, after especially you watch something like that and you start thinking about all these things and all these people that maybe you've talked shit about before, or, maybe somebody that you feel like you've done harm to before, right? Whether that's an emotional harm or physical, whatever. And you no longer feel that way and you feel bad about it. And even that entire piece of like you feeling bad
Sorry,
about it.
Nova's got some feedback.
I know Nova's like, I hear you, Shira. um But even like the piece of you feeling guilty, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
How that can still be holding on to this connection to that
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
person, right? That
Yeah.
guilt that you're holding on yourself to. So, what if when you are releasing this connection and you're going through this cord cutting practice, that you also not just send love and light to the person you're releasing that from, but you also send it back to yourself and attach a lot of forgiveness to that.
I was just getting the word forgiveness. Don't forget to forgive
Right.
in that releasing of that connection.
Right. And just letting go of like the entire like karmic cycle that you continue to create,
Mhm.
right, over and over
Mm.
and over again by holding on to that trauma, that guilt, the submission of yourself to just feel this all the time.
Mm.
um
That's beautifully said. Yeah.
yeah, I think that it's worth a try, even if maybe you're not
Give it
aligned
a
to things.
few goes.
Give it a
Yeah.
go, right? See what happens. Let's feel it out. Anyway, I had to like make sure we talked about this today just because like I know personally I've been um feeling a bit uh stuck, right? Like I've been feeling
Mhm.
a bit down and tired and
Drained. Yeah.
mhm, and just overly exhausted all the time, just exhausted. And
Mhm.
and sometimes I'm like I don't know where this is coming from. Like
Right. Or why I can't get out of this space.
mhm.
Like, even if you're trying to do all the other self care activities, like, why am I not bouncing back?
Yeah. And this is especially hard for people that are like highly empathic because you could just be watching some horrific thing on the news and that's all you think
Oh,
about for the
gosh.
rest of the day. And now you're completely just attaching yourself directly to all of that. And I don't say these types of things to say like don't have a care in the world about it or anything like that, right? I think it's brilliant and I think it's beautiful that you care and that you have, an emotional reaction to something you see that's like super traumatic and things of that nature. That's completely human and that's completely normal. My hope though is that you don't attach yourself so much to it that it causes now your own body harm and you weren't even
Mhm.
involved in that particular situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that can be very difficult. You
Especially with so much, on the news, like, it's constant. And of course, that's what makes good news, is being able to create those kind of emotional reactions.
right,
So, yeah, even taking a break from that.
right. So that's where we get into practicing sending love and healing, uh, but it's the intent to send that out and
Mhm.
then let that go. Allow them to have. See,
Sorry.
she knows what I'm saying is right. It's amazing. She feels that love I'm sending her, so she's just whining it out. That's all. So
Yeah. Some energy moving.
oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Oh,
So
I think this is, yeah, really
yeah,
important to bring to our attention, and help us recognize again, like, how connected we truly are without even necessarily seeing it, seeing those connections, and remembering that this is an extra step that we can take to, e- provide self-care
yeah.
and cleanse some of our aura, our energetic field. And I'm sorry, I'm having a real hard time concentrating with her already.
I know it's okay. Hey, we are human. We have pets. We have kids. We have spouses. We have the lawn guys outside doing their thing
Yeah.
next door. You've got.
Constantly pulling our attention and our energy and sense of responsibility, and
I sometimes envy the people that live out in the middle of nowhere and have like
yes,
zero distractions.
yes. It would be nice to share some of that, like, exchange some of the overwhelming
I
time
freaking salute
with
you
some
all.
peaceful time. Yeah.
Seriously.
Way to
Um
create that space for yourself, guys.
speaking of creating, and we'll just do like a quick announcement, but speaking of creating uh, a, a sanctuary for yourself,
Mm.
Carrie and
Mhm.
I are actually going to be taking a little road trip. We're going about 2.5 hours outside of Austin up into
Mhm.
the, well, they call them mountains, but I, find
Yeah.
that we have really
Hill
large hills
country.
here. Right. So I did think that the name on the Airbnb that we've decided to rent for a few days, it says up in the, at the very top of the mountains. I was like, oh, that's cute. We don't have mountains here. So
Yeah.
we have really large hills. I don't think it qualifies as a mountain for that
At
many
least in
feet.
Central Texas, yeah.
Right. So, but man, we're really looking forward to this because this is something that anyone can do. Find a space. There's so many options out there with like different like Airbnb, or like there's all these other sites that you can go where you can just find a space. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and we super encourage that this is going to
Yeah.
be an incredible opportunity for Carrie and I to just go
And reset.
100%. Yeah, release, sleep,
Sleep.
zero sleep, zero distractions, right? And just creating ourselves a personal sanctuary to just get away and detach and not
And
be
just be in our
right.
energy.
And just be in our energy. Exactly. So,
Mhm.
and I'm sure we're going to take a lot of pictures and share a lot of that information. Maybe we'll do an episode from there. Who knows?
That's the hope.
That's the hope. We're just going to go with how we feel. So, we're not
Yeah.
putting any type of a schedule or anything like that
Mhm.
on ourselves. We're just going to
Other
go
than
with it.
when we're going to try and be there and when we need to leave by.
Right.
That's it. Otherwise, we are going to do what we want, when we want, however long we want, if we want. And that sounds freaking amazing.
It's overdue. It's overdue. So,
Yeah.
um but this is like highly encouraging, because I know you and I are like crazy excited about this, and
Hmm.
it's encouraging to sometimes hear other people do that as well,
Hmm.
and and take that extra step and just create that new environment for yourself, and
Yeah.
allow that to be. You don't have to have an itinerary with every trip you go on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Period.
Or every weekend for that matter.
Or every weekend. Exactly. Awesome. I
Oh, yes. Awesome, Shira. Thank you so much for bringing this information to our
Yay.
awareness today.
Good. And I sincerely hope that, with hearing this information, that it unlocks something within you that just feels right, and because our words carry vibration to it. And so I'm sending out as much love and healing and support, and raising your awareness to what you control and what you have your capabilities to do. And hopefully by hearing this information, something just clicks within inside of you that says, that sounds right. I like that. We can do this. And set the intention when you're going through that cord cutting ceremony, whether it's a meditation or you just quickly sit back and you just
Hmm.
set the intention that this is working.
Yes.
Make that be your intention. What I'm doing, or what I'm about to do, this is what it's going to do. This is my intention, is to release all of this.
And think of it as it has worked. Hmm. Yeah. You're already experiencing it working.
Ooh, that manifestation. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like manifestation 101. All right.
Oh, well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today and reviewing cord cutting and just another measure in how we can continue to love ourselves and love others. So, on our journey to expand love in this universe and this awareness, I hope that you have enjoyed this information, and we would love to hear some feedback on what you experienced when you tried to cut some cords as well. So, hit us up on social media, any of the platforms, Facebook, on YouTube. You can leave comments, you can email us, and don't forget Instagram as well.
Yes. And please do not forget that love first.
love last,
and love always.
and love always.
We're never going to get this right, and I friggin' love it.
No,
Okay.
that was a good one. Oh, thanks, you guys. Love you so much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.